This is Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher like you. I love this teaching, so I want to share it. And we're reviewing, and I'm commenting on the book's Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. This week is talk 131. Let me get it up on screen. Mr. Subba Rao asked, what is Mukta Prana, the chief prana, the primary life force? And Maharshi responded, it is that from which the ego and the prana rise. It's sometimes called kundalini. Consciousness is not born at any time. It remains eternal. But ego is born, so also other thoughts. Associated with the absolute consciousness, they shine forth, not otherwise. Then he asked, what is moksha, liberation? Maharshi says, moksha is to know that you were not born. Be still and know that I am God. To be still is not to think. Know and not think is the word. Then he says there are said to be 6 centers. The heart center is 2 finger breadth to the right of the middle line. But the heart is also formless. Should we then imagine it to have a shape and meditate on it? Maharshi responds, no. Only the quest, who am I, is necessary. What remains all through deep sleep and waking is the same. But in waking, there is unhappiness and the effort to remove it. Ask who wakes up from sleep. You say, I. Now you are told to hold fast to this I. If it is done, the eternal being will reveal itself. Investigation of I is the point, and not meditation on the heart center. There is nothing like within or without. Both mean either the same thing or nothing. Of course, there is also the practice of meditation on the heart center. It is only a practice and not investigation. Only the one who meditates on the heart can remain aware when the mind ceases to be active and remain still, whereas those who meditate on other centers cannot be so aware, but infer that the mind was still only after it again becomes active. So this is a conversation between Ramana Maharshi and Mr. Subba Rao, where they discuss the concepts of the chief prana, the primary life force, and liberation, moksha, in the context of Advaita Vedanta. Mr. Subba Rao asks about the nature of Mukhya Prana, the primary life force or vital energy in the body. Ramana explains that this chief prana is that from which the ego and the regular prana, the vital breath, arise. He notes that it is sometimes referred to as kundalini, a concept in yoga representing dormant spiritual energy coiled at the base of the spine. Yoga sees kundalini as the primordial power of consciousness itself. Ramana says that consciousness is eternal and never born or created at any point in time. However, the ego and other thoughts are born and are impermanent. When associated with absolute consciousness, they appear to shine forth, but they have no existence independently of their own. They depend on absolute consciousness, which is who you are, for their very existence. Ramana points to the timeless and unchanging nature of pure consciousness, the true self, beyond egoic identification and fleeting thoughts. The next question is then about the nature of liberation, to which Ramana provides a profound insight. Moksha is to realize that you were never born. He quotes the scripture, "Be still and know that I am God." In this context, being still is going deeper than the activity of the mind in identification with transient thoughts. Knowing is direct experiential understanding, not mere intellectual knowledge. Know and not think is what Ramana instructs. This is the knowing that rises out of being, existence as. The final question regards the practice of meditation on the heart center, one of the yogic practices. Ramana clarifies that the practice of meditating on the heart center is not the same as self-inquiry or investigation of the I. Meditation on the heart center is a meditation technique useful in stilling the mind. This is a useful preparation for inquiry, but is not the actual inquiry. The practice of who am I, self-inquiry, is taught by Ramana as the means to realize your true nature and attain liberation. By investigating the source of the I thought, you can see and dismiss various ideas you have about your identity. When these ideas fall away, you discern the eternal being that exists beyond the realm of changing thoughts and perceptions. You see what is always there after you have dismissed what comes and goes, what is temporary. What is always there in the waking state, in dreams, and in deep dreamless sleep. Ramana stresses the importance of holding fast to this investigation of the self, since it leads to the self-revelation of your real identity as the eternal self. when you try to look at the self with the mind, what you see are mind objects. To get past these, you must, as my teachers said, make your vision non-objective. You must look past the objects to the knower of these objects. This dialogue between Ramana Maharshi and Mr. Subha Rao touches on the profound teachings of Advaita Vedanta, emphasizing the eternal nature of consciousness, the importance of self-inquiry, and the distinction between meditation practices and the direct investigation of the true self. So inquire, know yourself, and be always happy and at peace. Now, a talk from Nomi beyond body, mind, and ego.
In the quest to realize absolute being, what you are seeking to know, you are. And the inquiry to know the self consists in the destruction of the falsely assumed individuality, which is abidance as that very absolute being. In worshiping God, the Supreme Lord of the universe, what you worship, you are. And the devotion or worship consists of the dissolution of the falsely supposed separate individuality. Leaving the infinite to remain as it perpetually is. Just inquire deeply into your own true nature. Discern how it is not possible, in truth, for you to be a body, or a mind, or an ego entity. How could an objectively perceived, sense-perceived, sporadically occurring thing called the body be you? You who are of the nature of being and consciousness and bliss. How could the attributes of a body be your attributes? Birth, death, active, inactive, and so forth and so on. The connection, the false connection, that seems to tie together yourself of the nature of being, consciousness, bliss with the body is ignorance. If just that much ignorance is given up, abandoned in the light of clear knowledge, what troubles would you have? What veils would there be to cover the innate bliss of the being consciousness that you are. Thinking may be useful for dealing with other thoughts. But of what use can it be in knowing the consciousness, which is the solitary knower of all the thoughts? None of the thoughts know you. You know all of them. How could there possibly be a connection, a binding that connects you to the mind? Free of a body, free of a mind, not defining your very existence in terms of these things. What remains of you? Beyond the body, the mind and the ego, the last being purely imagination. What remains is your true existence, which is what you are always. Cease to misidentify as a body, as a mind, as an individual. There is then no limit, no bondage. There is then no reality apart from the self. There is then nothing else existing at any time. Just oneself, yourself, naturally eternal, innately infinite. Every idea of being bound, every idea of being limited in any way, as something distinct or apart from the absolute reality of being consciousness bliss, Brahman, is merely a case of misidentification, taking yourself to be an I, a mind, a body. Then once having mistaken oneself to be an I, a mind, and a body, trying to figure out what is real, or how to get to the reality, or how to find God, or how to reach the self, as if that self, the reality, or God, were something far away, or apart from you. Dissolve the false definitions of you, and that which you're hoping to find is self-evident as your very existence, as continuous as your very existence. If the blissful truth is what you want, dive inwardly, deep, in this way.
So now we'll take a few minutes and inquire. Notice that you exist, and you know that you exist without thinking about it or feeling it. Like this, you should know yourself. Now, inquire, investigate within yourself From what does the ego rise? Is the ego an idea or is it reality? If it's reality, it must always be there. Is the ego always there? What about deep sleep? Is the ego there in deep sleep? Who are you when there is no thought? What remains all through deep sleep, dreaming, and waking? What is always there? Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? All right. And we'll close with our chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace. 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 All right. Any questions or discussion?
The simplest, most direct teaching.
I agree. And what he wants to do is go direct to our being and kind of skip the mind. And I think, in some of these talks, then there are pundits who have spent their life studying all these texts, and it's hard for them to get past the mind.
That's right. And the beauty of Ramana is that he just met everybody where they were,
Yes, yes.
I remember hearing that there was a conference in Tiru of a Muslim conference, and after the conference, a number of those Muslim pundits went to see Ramana.
Yes.
And they asked him, what was the essence of the teachings, and he said, Salam. And they asked him, how do you get there? And it's through being a Muslim. So for Ramana, he was just, wherever that person is a way to realize.
Yes, yes. And we see that all through these talks.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that is consistent. He goes to where the person is and then immediately tries to uproot false assumptions so they can go deeper.
Yeah.
Well, we are blessed to have this available. I feel like we're blessed also to have each other to share it with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So namaste, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Namaste.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this Ramana Maharshi video, subscribe, like, and send me a comment.